Hiring team members, here's how to do it right. When you pay someone to edit your podcast or write your scripts or manage your social media, do you know who actually owns the work that they create? Well, most podcasters assume, well, I paid for it, so of course I own it. And that is one of the most common and dangerous misconceptions out there. And it can cost you your content, your brand, could cost you even your entire show. Today, we're going to clear all this up, and I'm going to show you how to bring team members into your podcast the right way. Welcome back to Legit Podcast Pro. I'm Gordon Firemark. They call me the podcast lawyer. Building a podcast team is one of the smartest moves that you can make. Writers, editors, virtual assistants, team members who help you grow while you focus on creating. But here's the catch. If you don't set things up properly, you could lose control of your own podcast. So in this episode, I will show you why team members may actually own the work they produce, the contract terms you need to include, and how to avoid the kinds of disputes that derail shows. So let's start with a real world story. A podcaster hired a freelance writer to script episodes of a true crime show. The podcast gained traction fast, and it started climbing the charts. And then the writer stepped in and demanded more money and said, "Those scripts are mine. You can't keep using them unless you pay me." And here's the thing. Under copyright law, they weren't wrong. The person who creates the work automatically owns it unless there's a written agreement saying otherwise. Now, this goes beyond writers. It could be editors who claim rights to the edited audio. Designers could claim rights to logos and graphics. Social media managers could even argue that they own the posts that they draft. Now, if they're an employee, then ownership does belong to the employer. But with freelancers, and that's who most creators hire, ownership defaults to the creator unless you've nailed it down in writing. So let's talk about how you make sure the work you pay for is actually yours. Here are a few mistakes that I see over and over and over again. First off is hiring team members without a written agreement, assuming payment equals ownership, trusting generic gig platform contracts, and forgetting confidentiality for things like guest lists and unreleased recordings. And then there's just not setting clear deadlines and deliverables and revision limits. Each one of these things could open the door to disputes and unnecessary costs. So here is what you absolutely need when you bring the team members in on your team. First off, you need a work made for hire clause. This is the key. It makes sure that you own the finished work. Next up, the scope of work needs to be clearly articulated with specific tasks and deliverables and deadlines. The payment terms need to be clear about how and when payments happen, and confidentiality will protect your podcast's private, sensitive information. The termination clause is what defines how either side could end the deal, and a dispute resolution clause will keep disagreements from becoming lawsuits. And in fact, it's a really good idea to put into your dispute resolution clause some language about arbitration or mediation, because those things are private and you may not want things to be a matter of a public record. All of these clauses aren't really about mistrust. They're about clarity. They protect you and your team members. So, onboarding team members smoothly is a matter of contracts. This is step one. But onboarding is where things really succeed. Vet the people before you hire them. Check their reliability and experience, get the agreement signed before the first task is done, and use project management tools to track work and payments. Make sure everybody's on track. Then limit access. Use password managers and assign permissions carefully so that your team doesn't end up having full control of everything you do. This isn't just legal protection. This is really professional management. So, what should you do if things go wrong? Well, let's face it, sometimes things do go off track. Maybe there are missed deadlines. Well, lean on the scope and termination clauses in your contract. Payment disputes? Use your payment system. It should have milestones that tie to payments. Ownership disputes? Point straight to the contract. And if the conflict escalates, well, that's when it's time to bring in professional legal help. So here's a question for you. Have you already added writers, editors, assistants, producers to your podcast team? Tell me in the comments what roles you've filled and maybe what challenges you might have faced if you have. All right, so let's wrap this up with a quick discussion of next clear steps. First, always use contracts when you're adding a team member. Spell out the ownership, the payments, the responsibilities. Protect your podcast before you hand over that first assignment. This is how you professionalize your podcast, by treating it like the business that it is. Now, I cover this kind of thing in much greater detail inside my Easy Legal for Podcasters program. And I've even got a sample lesson you can check out right now. Just check it out in the comments or the description. So here's the big takeaway. Hiring team members can be the best decision that you make for your podcast, but only if you do it legally. Without agreements, you could lose control of the very content that you're building. Don't risk it. Head on over to podcastlawforms.com to get lawyer-drafted contracts designed specifically for podcasters, and join me next week when we'll be talking about podcast monetization gone wrong, and I'll break down sponsorship and brand deal traps that can drain your profits. Until then, I'm Gordon Firemark, the podcast lawyer, helping you keep your podcast legit, keep you out of trouble, and your assets under your control. See you next week.